I like to brag that I have the best job at Salesforce. And this is going to be interesting because what I'm going to do now, I'm going to do a mix of things. And maybe you can shout out about what you want to see. Those of you in the back can't see any of this stuff. So at Charlie Isaacs on Twitter, and I'mcisaacs@salesforce.com if you want to email me. And hopefully it won't go into spam, but you can email me anytime you want. I'm more responsive. If you direct message me on Twitter, I'm not very responsive that way because sometimes it goes off and I don't see it. So it's better if you've got something really urgent, call me or email me. Okay. Have you ever been to one of those science fairs with your kids? You know, you build this cool stuff. Well, I get to build cool stuff every day, and I get to connect it up. And I've got special tools that and the same tools you're using, I'm using those to connect my customers' devices up. But when we do that, more and more often, and I started off in the Service Cloud group, and that was a no-brainer. More and more customers were asking to connect their devices up to Service Cloud because when it fails, what do? You open a case, right? And the case goes through a workflow. And the workflow dispatches a technician, and the technician goes to fix the problem, and they close the case. That's almost every device is connected up to the cloud is going to have that use case because eventually every device is going to fail, or eventually every device, the battery is going to go low. So you need to be able to create an incident or a trouble ticket or a case or do something that will trigger a workflow so you can solve that problem, right? So this picture is critically important for IoT, not only for that reason, but let's talk about sales. What happens when, I did a demo 2 weeks ago with an MRI machine company. What happens when the MRI machine needs to have, does anybody here know about MRI? They have helium, I never knew this, they have helium levels in the MRI machines. When the helium drops to a certain level, that's dangerous for the machine, okay? So they have to go out and fill the helium in the machine. So, sure, it's easy, you create a case, you dispatch the field technician, but what else can you do? Well, let's sell that customer a service contract. So the next time, and maybe even this time, when the technician is dispatched to go fill the helium, the customer can get a discount because they can go on a service contract plan, and what that machine should do is not just create a case, but they should create an opportunity in Sales Cloud, right? And then that gets routed to the sales guy. And then you need to do another measurement where if the helium level is low for the third time and the temperature is running at, I think it's in Kelvin, like 150 Kelvin or something, I don't know, that's probably meltdown. They measure it in Kelvin, like 10 Kelvin, I think that's the number. If it's greater than 10 Kelvin for X% of the time, then that machine is way overutilized. So guess what we should do? We should create an opportunity in Sales Cloud and sell them a new machine because they need an additional machine because when that machine goes down for maintenance or whatever, or maybe it's getting overloaded right now and maybe it's going to break, we need to have a backup machine because otherwise patients aren't going to be able to get MRIs. Okay, so how many people were here at Dreamforce last year? Okay, did you see the IoT cabin? So these are examples, and I'm not going to go into these and drill into, I can if you want to raise your hand later and say, hey, how does that MTD lawn tractor work? And I'll tell you, oh, that was a really dumb, simple use case where they have an ignition switch. And this is actually the right way to build it. How many people saw the MTD tractor on the floor? Did you guys remember this? Okay, so there's like a stupid switch in the thing. And when I first talked to these guys, they say, oh, we need a oil pressure monitor and a gas fluid level and the sensor for all the rotors and the bearings and maybe something to measure the strength of the blade or the wear of the blade. So we decided to just put an ignition switch in there because guess what you can measure with just hours of operation? You can measure how many hours is operated, right? And if you could do that, you can measure whether or not you need to change oil. And you can measure when the blades they need to be replaced. So why not push, and this is back in that previous slide, Marketing Cloud, why not push a notification and a coupon to the customer? Hey, we'll give you a coupon for 10% off if you buy non-aftermarket blades from us, from MTD. And that's good for MTD, that's good for the customer, that's good for, it's a win-win-win because the customer saves money and MTD doesn't have to worry about some crappy blade going into the lawnmower and breaking the lawnmower. Okay, so I promise not to drill down on these, but you get the idea, right? So, oh, look at that. Okay, so we can talk about those. So this is another favorite. This is me barbecuing in the backyard. How many people have seen this slide? I like, this is one of my favorite slides because it's how bad I barbecue. But if you, at the CES show last year, the Lynx barbecue is connected to Heroku. This is another, a more complex use case, right? A simple use case would be Stanley Black & Decker garage door opener that's in Home Depot, sends an email into Service Cloud, creates a case, and they're done. And they did that without me. I was very offended. They went off and did that without me. They didn't call me and say, hey, Charlie, help us with this, because they just sent an email in from the device when it failed, or when it was about to fail. But these guys, they built this on Heroku in like 3 months. They're a minimally viable product. And then you tell it how heavy your steak is and how you like it cooked, and it'll tell you when it's time to flip the steak, and it'll control the temperature for you. So anybody here who has $9,000 extra dollars, if you're a Salesforce developer, you should have that kind of extra money, right? Because you're fully utilized. So, and my other favorite simple app, this is connected to Service Cloud. This is a connected, anybody been to the Singapore airport, Changi Airport? This is hanging on the wall and outside all the restrooms. And if you push on frowny face, that means your toilet experience was less than satisfactory. And poor Zhang gets dispatched because a case gets created in Service Cloud and it goes through a workflow and he gets notification to go clean the toilet. And so then if he doesn't show up, then someone backup gets, it's a whole SLA. How many people have programmed SLA into Service Cloud? If you've done that, you know how this works. It's all about talking to an API from a tablet hanging on the wall, creating a case in Service Cloud and triggering a workflow. And my favorite part of this app is at the very bottom. This screen is sanitized regularly. So that was a very important feature of that app. So we have a litany of products, and I think we're up to like 75 or 80, and I stopped counting because I stopped traveling to these places because more and more customers are doing it on their own. People like you are picking up Process Builder and saying, oh, if I write a row in a custom object or a standard object, I can trigger all sorts of activities, and all I need to do is go from an MRI machine's aggregation layer, Philips or whatever. They already have connected device network aggregation layers on hospital networks, HL7 networks, and they're secure and they're one way and they can be anonymized. And you say, I want to make an API call. You're not sending any HIPAA data, right? You're sending create me a case. Why is that confidential? I'm low on helium. So it sends it out to Salesforce, it opens up the case, and the technician goes in. And in some cases, we're leveraging partners to do this. Are there any partner people in the room where you come from companies like PTC or, okay, what company are you with? Velocity, okay. So Velocity is a good example of leveraging the space between the device and our platform, right? So we don't do first mile, last mile. Some people call it last mile, some people call it edge, Cisco calls it fog. We don't touch the device. We don't build that switch, the hours of operation switch that goes on in the MTD tractor. We don't do any of that. We don't build Intel chips, right? Intel does that. So they're responsible, or a partner typically is responsible for getting it from the piece of hardware, or the product, into the cloud. And we don't do any of that stuff. We rely on our partners to do that. And Velocity, Xively, PTC are the main people, like the Lutron light bulb story, that's Xively. The MRI machine thing was PTC, and they bought a company called Exida. So we've got all these partners that help us do this stuff. And you're going to see more and more of that. You're going to see Cisco doing more of that too. Okay, so your tools that you have right now that are very simple are, I mentioned the garage door opener, Stanley Black & Decker at the Home Depot. It has an error message, sends an email, creates a case. Web to case. You could build a web to case. How many people have done a web to case thing? Or a web to lead, same thing. So you get the URL, you post to the URL, you do an HTTP post, and you can send stuff in, right? Or you can make it more secure and use OAuth and do something similar. Data to an endpoint. So again, create an endpoint in Heroku. Some companies are doing that. Some partners are doing that. They're using Heroku. They're posting to a Postgres database. And where's that? I left all my stuff in my jacket pocket. That's why I wore a jacket. Okay, these guys, anybody seen this? Automatic. This is automatic OBD dongle. Plugs into your, when you take your car into get it serviced because the check engine light goes on. If you're not like my wife just tapes a little sticker over it or like a piece of tape to cover it up and then turns on the radio louder. But if you're not like that and you want to take it in and get it diagnosed, you can, they plug a computer into your little dashboard socket, and this plugs in the same place. And they get really angry. They throw this away if you take this in and forget to take it out. They'll say, what is this? This is impacting this is why your engine light went on. Actually, they won't. So this has got an accelerometer in it, and it's got a low power Bluetooth transmitter in it, and it talks to my smartphone. I wonder if I've got, sometimes I put it in my presentation, sometimes I don't. Hold on, let me see if I've got it in there. Oh, this is all stuff that you don't care about. Oh, I want to talk about that. Oh, here it is. I do have it. Okay. So here's that device I'm holding up. I can pass it around too. Anybody want to? Here. Good catch. Look at that. Okay. So it's got this smartphone app, and it tells, and by the way, I bought this first because I wanted to prove to my wife that I was a great driver, because it gives you a driver rating, and I failed miserably. I had to gamify it to get it to go up above 90. So I had it like 40, 32. If you accelerate too quickly or slam on the brakes too quickly, which I never do, well, maybe I do, or speed, it's set at like 65, or 70. That's ridiculous. Who drives 70? Anybody drive 70 miles an hour? I drive like 72. Okay, so it gave me a driver rating of 40, so I got it up to 95. I showed it to my wife. But this is, it does other useful things too, like, how many people have seen the Flow commercial? Have you seen the Flow commercial? Progressive Auto Insurance? Okay, so you're going to see more and more insurance companies that are going to allow you to get a driver discount, and you're going to think that Big Brother is tracking you, but actually you're going to want to do it because your insurance is going to cut significantly, and that's one of the reasons this thing exists, is to do that. But you also can, if I travel a lot and I charge the company for my miles that I drive, then I can, it'll generate an expense report for me really easily. But the important concept to think about with IoT, and then I'm going to go more, and I'm going to believe it or not, this is a developer group, so I'm going to drill down. Don't worry, I'm talking high level. And if you want to hear more high level, I could talk more high level business cases too. But the business case behind this, and by the way, if you don't have a business case, if you don't have a solid business case behind your IoT, you might as well forget it, right? Because you're not going to get funding for the project. And I've got some stories about that too, positive and negative. But the deal behind this device is, if I'm a consumer, I have one of them, or maybe I have three of them because I want to track my teenager and my wife, to make sure he's safe, of course, that the airbag, not that he's in the bar and not the library, no. But if I get a notification that their airbag deployed, that's very important information to me. That means they've been in an accident. So, but I'm a consumer in that case. But if if I'm a fleet management company, and there's another Salesforce customer called ATEC, they do fluid level monitoring, right? Imagine connecting that fluid level monitoring platform. Imagine if they're on the same platform, they're on Salesforce. So ATEC fluid level monitoring monitors the level of a fuel in a tank, and if the tank goes low, that's when you want to dispatch the truck, not when it's high, right? That would be ridiculous. You go out to fill a tank that's not empty. So why not be able to find out where your fleet is? If you know where your fleet is, because you're tracking them with an OBD dongle, and you know which tanks are low, then you can intelligently dispatch those vehicles to those tanks, and you can save time, money, effort, resources. So the business case is pretty much, I'm going to say they write themselves, but you have to do the math beforehand, right? You have to rapidly prototype these things. You have to prove the business value up front, and then you build your MVP and launch it. And you shouldn't try to boil the ocean when you do IoT. Okay, does all that make sense? Okay. You'll have time later to, okay, so speaking of data and business, this is my last business slide. How many people were here? This is a Bay Area group, so I figured this would be useful. Were you all here for the Napa earthquake a couple years ago? Do you remember that? Okay, so if you're in North Bay, you pretty much felt it, right? How many people have received notifications from like the USGS that say, hey, did you feel that earthquake? Or you can go to the, okay, so sometimes if you're on their mailing list, if you're a nerd like me and you want to be on their mailing list, and you want to be the first to know when an earthquake hits, and I go to Twitter now and I see that information. But they'll ask you, did you feel that quake? Because that's important scientific data for them. Not only how deep the earthquake is, but whether or not humans actually perceived the quake and how strongly they perceived it. They'll ask you what level you felt the earthquake. Was it strong, medium, or weak, or whatever? So instead of going out to humans, they went to Jawbone. How many people are wearing a Fitbit or a Jawbone here? Anybody wearing a, okay. So my Fitbit tracks my sleep data and my steps and my heart rate. The Jawbone customers that they polled all had sleep trackers. So what they did was they went out and had Jawbone anonymize the data for 3 a.m. on the day of the earthquake. And guess what? The people in Napa, because they knew location, right? They knew where the customer was. So I call this data triangulation. This is another important aspect of IoT. So the people in Napa felt the earthquake. I was in San Jose. I was living in San Jose at the time. And guess what? I slept right through it. There I am there. But people North Bay, more and more, they could tell precisely who felt that earthquake because they were awakened out of their sleep. Does that make sense? So you can drive very valuable conclusions from wearable data, from connected device data, especially when you triangulate it with weather and location and feeding multiple parameters into a massively scalable input stream. And I'm leading towards what IoT Cloud does here. Okay, so I have a punchline. So this is IoT Cloud. We want to go from reactive to proactive to predictive. So we could do proactive pretty well right now, even with IoT Cloud. We can't do predictive in Salesforce. I don't know how many of you have coded anything that's predictive yet, but that's why we're buying all these little companies. Again, this is under safe harbor. We're buying some, we're calling it IQ. Have we publicly named it IQ? I don't know what we're calling it. Okay, I did erase. Shut off the video. But we're trying to build intelligence into our well, we Relate IQ, okay, we bought them. And how many people are leveraging or have seen that capability in Sales Cloud, right? We're making Sales Cloud more intelligent. What we want to do is we want to be able to predict what customers and what devices and what's going to fail, right? What's going to be productive. What does a positive outcome look like in the future? I call those tire treads. When a customer goes from path A to B, and this could be a device too, to path C, and there's success, meaning they bought a lot of product or they had a very happy customer experience. We call that a journey, right? And I want to be able to repeat that for that next customer so they have the same happy experience. So I want to predict and guide them along that path. And that's what we're planning on doing with our future products, and that's under Safe Harbor. But you heard Mark say about three years ago that behind everything is a customer, right? Behind every device is a customer. And we call it the Internet of Customers. That's why my title is not CTO for the Internet of Things. My title is CTO for Customer Connection, because I love connecting to our customers, and I help connect our customers to their products, and I help them connect their customers, my customers' customers, to their products and devices. So behind everything is a customer. And the question we answer with IoT Cloud is how are you going to connect billions of events and make them actionable, right? So this is how we're doing it. So have you seen this before? This is all old, right? You saw this at Dreamforce last year. This is the marketing slide for IoT Cloud. And I'm going to actually demonstrate this, and I'm going to drill down into it and show you how it works. But you need this overview first, because we have billions of events coming in. It's not just events from my Fitbit or from devices. It's from Twitter posts. It's from social feeds. It's from web clicks. It's from customer behavior. It's from analytics. All that's coming in on the left-hand side. And then there's an orchestration layer. This is great, because I'm talking to an audience that probably knows what a state machine is, right? You all know what a state... The limitations I had with my previous offering at Salesforce was that I didn't have the ability to scale to billions per day per customer, number one. And number two, I didn't have the ability to track context, okay? So it's really easy to hard code in context. Probably not, because you have to write instructions that say, okay, the customer is in gathering information mode. Now they switch to, they're in the store right now, so they're probably going to be looking at buying something, and maybe they're going to have it shipped, or maybe they're going to take it home. So you have to do these if this, then that types of calculations based upon which state they're in and their context, right? So we don't really have anything that's that great in Salesforce that allows you to easily do context management, unless you guys know of something, or maybe you wrote something. Has anybody written that type of engine in Salesforce? Probably not, okay. Flow tries to do, you can program into Flow. How many people have used visual flow, right? You can say, okay, if this, then trigger this action, write this row in this object, and then do this, and then you have to do that, right? But you have to hard code all that stuff in. IoT Cloud will allow you to program rules within each state and each context. So you have a huge state diagram that's generated as a result of doing these rules, and it's really cool. But then the most important thing is if you've got a Salesforce customer that wants to do IoT, you can very easily connect the output of this into the input of anything. Remember I was talking about everything is API enabled, but IoT Cloud makes it really easy to connect to third-party systems. But now you're thinking to yourselves, why is he telling me how easy it's going to be in the future with IoT Cloud? I'm a developer, I want to write code, I want to augment all that stuff. Well, guess what? You're going to be able to write code in here. You can write JavaScript, you can write Java, you can write whatever you want to augment that if you have complex operations in here. Plus, you're going to be able to make, we have HTTP post input points, we have HTTP endpoints on the input side. All you need to do is take anything you want, any program, any device, and any aggregation layer, and do an HTTP post with a token to our endpoint. We call it an event stream, an input stream in IoT Cloud, and then you trigger your activities, right? You force the state change in the middle. So the other thing we have is something called a data pipe, which is really the secret sauce behind IoT Cloud. A data pipe allows you to have data at rest, basically. So you have data coming in. Let's say you have, what's the best kind of data we have in Salesforce? Like profile data, right? Customer information. So you could take the customer information from Salesforce, you batch load it in as static data on the input side, and you could do things like, this customer is standing in front of this Best Buy, and they triggered this beacon, so therefore they should be in this state, and let's take the other customer data about them. They're in the information gathering stage, so offer them this coupon to go into the store. Those types of journey-related adventures can connect devices to the human, to the customer data in Salesforce. So it's all about pushing profile data combined with massive amounts of events and context. And you get that with IoT Cloud. Does that all make sense before I go on and give a demo? Want to see a demo? Let's see, we got it. Okay, hey, that's the right slide. How about a demo? So how many people, was anybody here at Connections in Atlanta? Did anybody go to Connections? Okay, good. So this is mine? It's yours. Oh, good. I've been on my feet talking all day. Can you tell? I'm losing my voice. Anybody see this movie? I have to keep this light, right? This is a developer group, but this was Mr. Mom. Anybody see Mr. Mom? Remember that? Okay, so he was doing redecorating. He was redecorating his house, but so I have a chainsaw blade, and it's a Stanley Black & Decker chainsaw blade that communicates to the cloud. Well, actually, it's an ignition switch, so I'm cheating. It's MTD lawnmower all over again. So if blade life is greater than 1 year and operating hours is greater than, so I can tell operating hours. So I can write a rule in IoT Cloud that says if my blade life is greater than a year and I've been operating for more than 220 hours, then I'm going to switch states in IoT Cloud that I'm ready for a coupon. So that, and it knows it's got profile data at rest into the input stream, and it knows I'm a Home Depot customer. It knows I have a Home Depot credit card. So it knows I shop, and I was doing this, I called out Home Depot. Hopefully I'm not offending anybody. Anybody here work for Home Depot? Anybody here work for Lowe's? Good, thank God. I had people in the audience that were working for Home Depot, and I was going, oh, God, we don't do this. Okay, I know you don't. They don't do this. Is not a real use case, okay? Especially when you see the next slide. Okay, so now I've got this Stanley Black & Decker chainsaw. Now my wife is on the Home Depot website. Actually, she did a Google search. It says, my deadbeat husband never drops a seat. Okay, so then this product came up on the Home Depot site. And what it is, it automatically drops the seat. So she put it in her wish list on the Home Depot site. Usually that gets a pretty good, no, I'm just kidding. Okay, so what happens here? The husband and wife profile information is in Salesforce, right? So the customer profile information, and here's IoT Cloud in the middle. So that's coming in as an input stream. Web clicks are coming in. I want this toilet seat. It's on my wish list. And then device data is coming in as the beacon data, because there's beacons in the store, and there's chainsaw data that's coming in as device data into the IoT cloud. This is an example of stuff being fed in massive quantities into IoT cloud, and decisions and states being changed on the fly.
That second hit, web clicks, is that something that Home Depot subscribes to, or the individual customer would?
Right here, the web clicks. So they would have to feed their data into our endpoint. So that could come from Marketing Cloud, by preference, or they could have their own e-commerce engine. Hey, guess what? We just bought we're in the process of buying an e-commerce. Take the video off again. No, everybody knows we're buying an e-commerce company. But so it could be e-commerce web clicks. In this case, she put it in her wish list. So we're going to trigger that activity into, and that's not high volume data, right? That's for one customer clicking, I want this toilet seat. So it could be low volume data combined with high volume data. Okay, so the use case I showed was Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud, and Sales Cloud. And what I did, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this to work because I got beacons spread out around the room, but I'll show you how it's supposed to work. Coupons, lead gen, and in-store help. So the idea is, what happens when you go to the Home Depot? You can never find anybody to help you, right? So, and this is why I was worried about telling the Home Depot people this in the room. You walk in there and you can't find the aisle that you're looking for. So I used beacons to lead me, because there's an app. By the way, if anybody's interested in beacons, you can email me and I can give you some sample code. It's really easy to find. You can go up to GitHub, and I assume you guys all go to GitHub, right? To steal code like I do. Well, I stole the GitHub example code for Estimote beacons, and you could buy 3 beacons for $99 if you have any retail beacon use cases. And you can do a lot of cool stuff with beacons now because they have accelerometers in them. So you could even tell if someone picked up that Coke can, you could put a beacon on it, right? Or we're doing a demo right now where they're picking up a pair of Bose headsets in the store, and you can tell, since the accelerometer is triggered, that they actually picked up the headset. And then we're going to have Alexa talk to the consumer. Hey, I see you picked up the Bose headsets. Would you like a coupon today, or something, something scary like that? But you could do that sort of thing when you're feeding in massive amounts of events. You know who's standing in front of you. You know what the beacon's doing, and you know how to talk to Alexa. You know what your Alexa is, right? Everybody knows what Alexa is, right? The little, what's that?
Amazon Echo.
Right, Amazon Echo. Yeah, I call it Alexa. What was I talking about? Oh, I was going into. I was making an important point that I just forgot.
Beacons on the headphone.
Oh yeah. Go to GitHub, download the code, and then you can even take that app that I'm going to show you in a minute and feed data in high speed. Oh, my wife just called me, probably telling me that she got my driver score and is very disappointed. So this is the Estimote app here, and it just shows. I just modified the distance routine in here. And it says I'm 3 meters away. How can I be? Oh, 7 meters. Okay, it's growing. 2 meters, 8 meters. So it's saying there's one pretty close. So I must have one in my pocket over there. But that's doing 2 posts, HTTP posts into my input stream in IoT Cloud. And you can modify that, for example, I used to do demos where I'd trigger beacon data into web to case. Oh, and now I've got a voicemail from my wife. This always happens when I'm giving a demo on my iPhone. I get messages from my wife. Sometimes they're not flattering. Okay, so let's do this. Oh, but yeah, so you can take their code, modify it, and have it talk to Salesforce. Let's go into here and see what we got. Okay, so here's a state diagram. Oh, it looks like I've got stuff already triggered. I'm hoping you guys can see this in the back. So this is a state view. And this is IoT Cloud. So we got a traffic view, a static state view, a rules view, global rules, variables, properties. I'll show you what those are in a minute. But this is the live view of the state diagram. And it's a very simple state diagram. So what it's going to do is it's going to check to see if I'm near the chainsaw in the Home Depot store. And it's going to lead me to the chainsaw aisle. And as I get nearer to the chainsaw aisle, it's going to push me a coupon. If I sit at the chainsaw aisle too long, it's going to notify, it's going to create a case in Service Cloud, and it's going to have someone call me because I'm suffering, right? I'm standing there in the row too long. That's the other thing that I hate about a Home Depot is you can never find an orange apron guy, right, to help you, or gal. Okay, but then when I walk close to the toilet seats, I've got some rules in there, and if I get really close to that and I actually lift up the toilet seat, I've got a message in there that you might not be able to see because it's going to be really small. It's going to send me a text message from my wife. It's going to say, "Thank you, honey, for buying my toilet seat for me." So that's how the demo is supposed to work, and that's what I demoed at Connection. But let me show you you're probably more concerned with the rules behind it and how the flow looks. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that since I was close, I was far away, so it's saying pushing message. Here's we call this our player. And any event going into the input stream gets played in the player, so you can see it displayed. So here's the input. This is what's coming in, and this is the output from the orchestration. Let me show you the orchestration. I'm getting buzzed. Oh, someone's tweeting about me. Okay, so I cheated, and I hard-coded the beacon IDs, okay? Because I didn't want the demo to get screwed up by other people in the audience having different beacon IDs. Because I did this once, and some nerds ran out of the room, and they went and got their beacons that were in another room, and they brought them in. And my demo, this thing, IoT Cloud was getting flooded with all these events, and I was going, oh, you couldn't see anything. It was really cool. Does anybody have a beacon in here right now, in your bag or anything? Because it's going to show up in my demo. Okay, so I've got two. One's 32165. I think that's the toilet seat. And the 60717 is the toilet seat, or 60217. And then, so you see these messages over here, action. Send message to Beacon OS. That sends a message to the debugging stream. But I can also, that's kind of useless, except for the audience. You can see what's going on in the state changes. But what's really useful is this one right here. It says create beacon _ C in new Thunder action.org. So that's actually going out to my Salesforce org. And when it switches to that state called check for near, and it's going to create a row in a custom object. And let me see if I can make that the right size so you can read it. Okay, so there's the Salesforce output action. So the object type, so when I authenticate, all I need to do to authenticate is go out and create a new connection through OAuth into Salesforce. So this could be, I'll show you that in a minute, but I don't want to screw this up. This is the list of objects I have in that org. So these should look familiar to you. There's an account object I've got in this org. There's you can call Apex classes. There's an asset object. So any objects you have in your Salesforce org are accessible directly from your IoT cloud, okay? But wait, there's more. You can create or you can update. So if you've got the object ID that you've passed back into the input stream, remember I said you can send stuff from Salesforce back into the input stream? Using Process Builder Thunder actions, and I'll show you that too, you can post back in, and it populates the JSON payload and the HTTP post, and it uses the token, your security token, and it pushes the data right back into the input stream. So I can send my object ID of that object or a newly created case back into my input stream, and you have round trip cool stuff going on, right? The sky's the limit behind that. Okay, and then there's a response event. I'm going to store the response from that creation of that object row in a variable called beacon response. But what am I going to pass there? Okay, so I'm not even passing anything there. I'm just going to create a row in that object. And that's going to trigger a process builder Thunder action that I'll show you in a minute. Okay, so that's all you have to do to trigger something. Let me see if I've got another one here. Well, here, let me build one and I'll show you how it works. So let's duplicate this row, and then I'm going to, my arrows aren't there. I'm supposed to have arrows there, but my resolution is wrong. So let's say this is a Salesforce object. I wonder if I timed out, because I'm not getting anything right now. Oh, okay, no, there it goes. Okay, let's create a new connection, and this should look familiar, right? I want to create a Salesforce connection, and I can log in to, let's log into that org, and I can call that the dev conference org, create connection. And what that's going to do is now it's going to go back and retrieve all the objects from that org, right? So that's how you create a new row in that. Do you know Adam Bosworth? He's the leader of IoT Cloud. Actually, he's running Salesforce Labs now because he's on to bigger and better things. And he's got a new guy. Do you know Woodson Martin? He's running IoT Cloud right now in Thunder. But Adam said that he wanted to design the orchestration capability, the IoT Cloud, to make it so that anybody that could write spreadsheet rules could program IoT Cloud. So as you can see, this is like you just connect up your org, you select your the object you want to write to, and then you save it. Okay, so I'm not going to save this because it'll mess up my demo. But let's go back into.
I think Adam gave a demo of this at the Trail DX.
Oh, were you guys at Trail? Okay, yeah. Probably a lot better than this demo, that's for sure. But what I'm going to do is go in here and let's trigger some things. So I'm getting notifications because I'm far away from the toilet seat. To not forget to buy the flush down automatic toilet seat. So let's bring this up and see if we can get stuff to flood in. Where is this? I gotta find the app. Had it a minute ago. Okay. Okay. So I'm far away, so it's saying please don't forget. So where's my other beacon? Oh, I got one in my pocket. Okay, here we go. So which one is this one? This is the, okay, I'm getting notifications now on my phone. This is 60717. So right there it says, thanks honey, I love you, because I picked it up. So I just picked up the toilet seat, so I got a happy message from my wife. So if I go back to the chainsaw blades, this thing should start, which I think I left in the back of the room. Are you guys getting nervous? I'm walking close to you with the, is it changing? Let's see, I'm getting closer to it. I'll bring it up to the front. So it should, the distance is, what did it say right there? So it changes states. So, and I'm getting notifications now, and it probably pushed me a coupon. Okay, so if I look on my phone here, I can see an email and an SMS text that I have a Home Depot in-store coupon. Dear Charlie, you're such a loyal customer, we'd like to give you a coupon. So that was just as a result of creating that one object you saw. It triggered a email alert, which everybody here in the room knows how to program one of those. And so now I'm getting close to the toilet seats again. So guess what? Notice it's not going to send me a coupon twice. That's the beauty and the power of a state machine. You won't create a case if there's an alarm twice, right? You only create it once because you'll go to that state and then you'll stop until another action that triggers you out of that state is triggered. So if we look at the live view, hopefully we'll see something interesting there. Did I lose my live view? I'll just click on it here, traffic. So if I start walking around, let's go to live. Here, who can catch back in the back of the room? I should be able to see these things switch back and forth. Here. Anybody want to catch? Great catch, that was good. So let's see. Oh, I got to turn the app back on. It should, let's see. Let me make sure oh yeah, see how it's switching back and forth, so it switched. And if I get close to you again, you should see the bubbles change again. See, so that's a live view. And you can see if you've got like 1,000 devices that's switching in here, you can see where the majority of your devices are, and you can spot trends and things. So if you have 1,000 devices that are failing on a specific time period, plus you can do things like replay this. You can play this back. So you can see what happened in the past. So that's pretty cool, huh? Okay, so that's the beacon demo. Let me show you one more use case. Abe, am I out of time yet? I have time? I talk too much usually. What time are we supposed to be done?
We have room till 9, but we don't have to stay that long.
Okay. Well, let me show you some of the other things I was talking about. I was telling you about, do you want to see the device tokens and things like that? I'll just show you how that works real quick. I wonder if I should turn this off so I don't keep getting, the IoT cloud guys are going to call me and tell me I'm flooding the stream. I've just got a little demo cluster. So every cluster, oh, that's the other thing I should probably tell you. Since you're nerds like me, you'd probably appreciate this. So this is going to be, I'm going to be a heretic for saying this, but we don't do multi-tenancy on IoT cloud at this moment. We have a dedicated cluster, and it was already mentioned that we're running on Amazon, right? So we have an Amazon cluster, and we're using open source technology like Storm, Kafka, Hadoop. And so we've got a collection of server technology and open source technology for each dedicated customer, because we have to plan on billions of events from each customer. So that's how we built our architecture. And Parker would get really mad if we fed all that into force.com, right? He'd be mad at me. Okay, so let's look at. Let me show you a quick slide on, and I don't like slides, but I would break the demo if I try to run it. What a device token is. So in a nutshell, device tokens allow you to, part of the heavy lifting is the last mile on a device, right? Getting it connected, getting the hardware up, getting the sensors plugged into the device, and then getting it connected to the cloud. Everybody is hearing about baby monitors being hacked into, right? You guys are all hearing about that. You're hearing about 7-Eleven store, was it 7? No, it was Target. Target stores got hacked into through the HVAC system, right? Everybody heard that story. That's how they compromised all that credit card data. So at the device level, at the sensor level, there has to be security. And we don't do any of that, okay? What we do is when you provision that device and get it into the cloud, we have this capability now called, I think they're going to call it, they might change the name, but I call it device tokens. And I've got a slide on that. Okay, using asset tokens, sorry, see I screwed it up. Because they leverage the asset object in Salesforce. And we beefed up, if you see the latest releases of Service Cloud, we've really beefed up asset tokens. So what this does, and this is directly out of the PDF because I want to make sure I was very careful and didn't talk about stuff that we're not doing. This is Spring Beta, the Spring Beta doc. So they're JWT-based tokens. So JSON, we've standardized pretty much on JSON payloads everywhere. So when you talk to our HTTP endpoint and IoT cloud, you're going to post with a bearer authentication token and a JSON payload, okay? We're also using JWT-based tokens for asset tokens. And of course, there's automatic integration with Salesforce because we're Salesforce, and we're this looks like a marketing, extensibility and platform integration. So it's all about, you power the device up, it goes out and gets a secure token and stores it in the asset object in Salesforce, basically. So then, from then on, you have a secure handshake, okay? And it'll do signatures and proof of possession for you automatically. And here's an example use case. You can register a new asset and track its metadata. So you power it up, it registers the asset into the asset object, and sends has a secure token handshake. And then it'll connect it to, and when you have an asset in Salesforce, what do? You connect it to you could connect to a contact or an account. So if you have it connected to an account, you know all the assets that are associated with Acme Incorporated, right? So what can you do with that? Once I power up the device, I get a secure handshake, I can trigger workflows. And a typical workflow would be a billing cycle, right? So you're going to see more and more customers, especially now that we have an we're going to have an e-commerce capability coming, hopefully, knocking wood. You're going to see more customers that want to initiate subscription-based billing, right? And you can do that with a secure handshake now with asset tokens. Does that make sense? So that's asset tokens. And I'm going to demo the other thing, the Process Builder Thunder Actions. You want to see that? Or should I stop talking and drink beer? You want to see the...
Are the asset tokens primarily a Salesforce Force.com thing that you're kind of piggybacking off of for IoT Cloud?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So the idea is whenever you create, it all goes back to IoT Cloud though, right? So if I create an asset token, what does that do? That creates a row in a standard object. And what I'm going to show you now in Process Builder is going to be able to feed that data back into IoT Cloud, right? Well, let me show you how that works. So in other words, you can switch states in IoT Cloud based upon an asset being provisioned, because you'll know about that just by talking to Force.com directly. Or you can go the other way, where you can feed it into IoT Cloud at massive scale. Let's say you power up 1 million devices. You're not going to want to feed that into Force.com. You're going to want to push those maybe in a sequenced manner over time into Force.com. If someone is dumb enough to power up 1 million devices at the same time, right? Which might happen, you never know. Okay, so let's go back into here and then I'll take questions, I promise. But I think this is a really cool feature, if I can get in here. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I didn't show you, and I have one more use case. If anybody wants to see it, or we could do it offline, or I could do the demo, or we could take a show of hands for me to shut up and sit down. I have a really cool Service Cloud Lightning use case, or a Lightning Field Service use case, where it goes through and tracks state when you dispatch a field technician. But let me do this first. So here, I'm going to log into that org I was communicating with in the IoT Cloud, or maybe I'm not. I have an OAuth error. How can I have an OAuth error? Let's try this again. Thunder action. There we go. So hopefully this will show up pretty well. So we'll go into setup. And I'm told that you could, if you want to enable this in your org, you can enable it now, but you of course have to be connected to IoT Cloud, so it's not going to do you much good. Or if you want to be able to push a JSON payload to an endpoint using a standard bearer token, you can use this capability. Have you guys heard about Process Builder events too? Do you know the events are coming out? Okay, so that's pretty standard, I think. Okay, so Process Builder. Do I have to be able to type to do this? Process Builder. Actually, I'll show you the one that is my Service Cloud use case.
You do this in Classic too, but you're practicing for Parker.
That's right. Well, okay, so one cool thing about process builder, it's all written in Lightning anyway, right? So you're going to get Lightning even if you go to Classic, because this is a Lightning interface. Okay, so everybody knows process builder, right? Oh, this is really ugly when you do it in this mode. Let me see if it can. Well, let's see if we can do that. You probably aren't going to be able to see it in the back of the room very well. Okay, so what I'm going to trigger off in this process is a case, right? Everybody knows that. So I could select any object, but in this case, I'm looking at a case object. So when the case is created, I'm going to take specific action. So this use case for this process builder flow is an alarm comes in from the device, and I'm going to do a new, remember that thing where I showed you, you can OAuth into Salesforce, and you can I created a custom object, right? So instead of creating a custom object from IoT Cloud, I'm creating a case. And I say new case, and I have quote new, end quote, as the field that I'm passing into Salesforce. And that will trigger this process builder, because a new row in a case triggers this process builder flow, or for those of you who have never used process builder before. So when the case is created, I'm not going to do anything special, but if a technician picks up this newly created case and changes it to work in progress or working, I want to be able to push that information back into the input stream in IoT Cloud. So the way I do that is I click on cases working, and you'll say case stat equals pick list value working. Okay. So if this text string in that field in the status field equals working, then what do I want to do? I want to immediate action. I want to take this action. So in this case, what I'm going to do is there's a drop down that says Thunder action in the in the beta version of Spring, and I think it's going to be available in summer too, GA. You have to turn it on. You have to get permission to turn it on though, because we don't have anybody that's connected to IoT Cloud except for like a handful of customers. But so this is a Thunder action, right? So action name, you can name it whatever you want. And then here's it. Remember I was telling you about an endpoint? Here's the HTTP endpoint. All you have to do is put the URL for the endpoint in IoT Cloud you're going to communicate with. And the token, the secure token, currently it's hard-coded, but in the next release, Safe Harbor, there's going to be a handshake, and you're not going to see any of this stuff. It's going to be hidden and protected. So you're not going to have to generate, copy and paste the token in there. And then there's a correlation ID that we're not supporting right now, and we'll talk about later. But then here's a JSON payload, right? So the event payload, what am I doing? So in my input stream, and I'll show you the input stream in IoT Cloud and how that works. But there's a GUID, which is basically the serial number of the device. And the way I have it set up, when I first created the case, IoT Cloud is pushing the GUID, which is the serial number of the device, into the case.reason field, believe it or not. Kind of a kludge, but I was too lazy to create a custom field for that. I could have created a custom field called serial number, or I could have used the serial number field if it's already there. But I just pushed it into the case reason field, and I pushed the asset ID into that, and I pushed the model into the same field. So I just reused that field 3 times. It didn't matter. So, but this is the payload that's going to go back into IoT Cloud. And then I also am pushing some other information in there that I can look up in Salesforce or just hard-coded. In this case, I cheated for the demo and hard-coded like zone info. What zone is it in? It's in Arizona. And case status is working. I want to leave it at working, right? So I just hard-coded that stuff in. But everything I put in here in this JSON payload is going to go back into the input stream in IoT Cloud. So the way that works, I'll just show you how it works real quick. It'll only take a second. So I've got this simulator that I wrote. It's not showing up. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Quit simulator. Let me see if it'll show up. Oh, geez, look how big it is. Okay, we'll see if I can get it to work. Okay, so here's a simulator. Wow, is right. So it's set up to be, I could change the device ID. I'll call it dev device 111. And what I could do is I can push this in.
Can you do zoom out?
Huh?
Can you do zoom out? Like
Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. No, it's not letting me zoom.
and then 2 fingers down.
What if I do that? No. Oh well. Anyway, this is just an iOS app that I built that pushes out into the input stream. It was easier than doing beacons. But what I did was, if I can go into here and let's load in, I'll show you what that flow looks like. Okay, so there's that orchestration, and we'll bring up a player for that one too. You guys are learning more about IoT Cloud than you ever wanted to learn, right? Okay. So let's start that player. And I should be able to send data. Bam, bam, bam. Let's send some. Okay, so I'm sending device data in there, right? So it's in normal mode. But if I send in an alarm, because I'm triggering off an alarm here. So how do I do that? I say, if, there goes my mouse. If error code equals alarm, then create a case in Salesforce Thunder, right? So remember it said create a new case? This is where it's doing it. Create a case in Thunder, bam. Case status is new. So that's what was going into that process builder flow, right? So, and I'm pushing in the subject error in device, blah, 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 blah. With fields, I can take fields from the input stream too. So remember I said I was pushing in the GUID into case reason? There's a case reason right there. So now what I could do is let's set an alarm and see what happens. Where's alarm? Boy, this is really bad. Alarm.
After you get this set up, how do you support this? Is the customer always dependent on you to make changes and to fix it?
So that orchestration where you have the rules in there, a business user should be able to go in and just modify the rules, right? So once you get it set up, how often would you need to change that? Maybe often, I don't know.
That would be to respond to a requirements change, but if
Right.
the system functioning right now?
If the system, if the device is not functioning, if the device is not functioning, that's great. That's what IoT Cloud's for, right? So it's sending, let's say this device is not functioning, I just send an alarm in, right? So now I'm gonna get a case created here. So let's look at this case status. So we should see a case from being created. Oops, that's calendar, case. Okay, there's a case, error in device. So remember that device we created called dev device? There's dev device 111, so there's an alarm. So now, remember I said if I changed it from new to working, we should be able to see that, feed the data back into that input stream. So I'm going to save this. And if I go into the player, so right there. So here's my input stream. And here's the case that was generated. There's a case ID. This came in. And I switched from field tech is dispatched, picked up the case because the working status was pushed back into the input stream. And I switched states. Does that make sense? And then if I wanted to, this case also does something, this use case does something funky and funny sometimes. People think it's funny. Like if the technician tries to close the case when it's still shooting out alarms, then it sends me an SMS text message saying, hey, the evil technician just closed the case. So what I could do is go in here and let's close the case. And we should see that in the input stream also. So all this is coming from Process Builder. So if I click on this and send an error message in, send. Oh, we saw the message go through. So error is not gone, evil tech closed the case, and then I should get a notification on my phone that, and here it is. enable tech close the case. So I've got Twilio as one of my steps in the orchestration. Oh, that's the other thing I do. The last thing I'll tell you, I promise, and I'll shut up. It's almost 8 o'clock. It's getting really late. Are you guys getting tired yet? Are you tired of me yet? So this is worth mentioning. I mentioned you can push anything out to Salesforce really easily, but even non-Salesforce you can push out really easily too. In this case, you can configure an HTTP endpoint to post out back into. You can post back into ourselves, of course, but then here is my Twilio. This is going to be hard to see in the back, but here's my, don't copy my token. Well, you don't get the whole thing anyway. You can probably guess the rest of it, right? So I'm just posting to regular Twilio, and I'm saying, enable tech close the case out to my phone number. I'm hard coding it in, but you can do really cool things with that, right? And I have one demo that I did that makes a phone call, and it's really obnoxious. It says, it talks to my phone. I put it on speakerphone and then play it for the customer. Okay, I get it. Turn it off. Okay, so that's all. I think I'm done. Am I done? Should I ask for questions, or should we just eat? Is there any beer left? If there's no beer left, I can go to the other floors and grab some beers. Don't tell anybody I said that. Is that on camera? Turn the camera on. Any questions? Yes?
So we think of it, the best example of why you want to push it, say like a case ID back into IoT Cloud, what you would do with that force.com data, I mean, other than the fact that it lets you know that, the case was created.
Yeah, so in this case, you can say, and no pun intended, if I have the object ID for the case that's created, I can do any number of things with that. I can go back in and update that, right? So I take the case ID. Remember that little update drop down box there? I can go in there and say, let's see, where is that thing? Create case. Okay, so I'm saying create case in Service Cloud. And instead of saying create, if I have the object ID, I could say update instead. And then I could put the object ID in that field. So I could basically update or write to any existing object in Salesforce using that ID that's pushed back into the stream. And you can push that back from Process Builder through Thunder Actions, or you can push it back through just a normal course of events by storing in a variable. And you can get it to automatically store that object ID in a variable for you and use it anywhere you want in the orchestration. Does that make sense?
Yeah, updates, that's the killer app for storing back in there.
Exactly. We tried, I think they also had upsert in there, and it was breaking things, so they took it out. They might put it back in, I don't know. Did I say that out loud? Okay, yeah, back, you're next. Or do you want to go?
Sure. You mentioned a couple customers using it now. Do you have any idea about everybody else will be able to?
Yeah, so we are looking for customers currently. The problem is the bar is set really high for existing customers. They want to, I mentioned that it's all single tenant right now, and it costs us a lot of money to deploy it. So we want customers to put skin in the game. And I think the starting price, I don't know if I'm supposed to state this. Okay, but I think I am. You're shaking your head no, but I think but it's more than $100,000 to the going in price for us to deploy a cluster. Okay, so you can use your imagination about how much we'd want from a customer to be able to launch with us, because we don't want to lose money on the first 10 customers. So I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to say that. But if not, then I'll get fired on Monday, and then if anybody, I'll contact those people that had job openings earlier. Okay. Okay, yeah.
So you're showing it just in JSON. Will it be, can it ingest XML?
Yeah, so currently you'd have to put it through a converter, and we have a converter tool or two that are running on Heroku that you could do that with. So the answer is out of the box, no right now, but we do have converter tools. And when I do demos and stuff, I just run it through an XML to JSON converter. They're a dime a dozen. But real time, you'd have to pass it through a converter. Yeah.
The Thunder XM you showed like in a process builder, is that only specific to IoT cloud, or it can be it gonna available for the sales cloud or service cloud?
The Thunder Actions out of Process Builder? Yeah. So you could put any token and any endpoint in there you want and send a JSON payload, yes. And you can even process real-time events with Process Builder now too. There's a new event feature that I haven't played with very much, but you should look at I think that documentation is in the current set of release notes, the event, Process Builder events, right? I think they talked about it during the last summer video session. I haven't kept up. I've been so heads down on other things, but did that answer your question? Yeah.
You could have a thing where if somebody goes to a movie, like a lot of times getting the coupons while you're in the middle of something, it'd be an interruption. If somebody was doing something where they were going to be waiting, you might want to get that. Like we partner up with like Lyft or something like that. Someone takes you, picks up your car while you're in a movie, changes your oil, brings it back to you because it notices that the oil went down.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. That's definitely a use case for. Yeah, we could definitely handle it. Multifaceted input in high volume, switching states. I'm now in this at the movie state, right? What are you going to do? How are you going to maximize that? And I was just with earlier today, I was doing an executive briefing center briefing with a network company that is a consumer-oriented network company, and we threw out like 4 or 5 use cases on the whiteboard that we can really have fun with. Like when I'm in Best Buy, their product was available in Best Buy, right? So it should know I'm in Best Buy, and I'm standing in front of their device. So it should know that I am and push me a coupon because it knew. I told them, I said, hey, I would have bought 3 more of these devices if I knew if I had a coupon. But I just waited. I figured I'd wait till they went on sale. And the person in the meeting goes, oh, yeah, we could do that. Yeah, we could push you a coupon right there. We just have to know you're in the store and blah, blah, blah. So I said, there you go. There's a use case. So.
In that example, what is the communication technology that my phone is using to let the beacon know or that I'm there?
Yeah.
Is it just cellular data or is it something else?
No. So your phone has GPS plugged into it, right, out of the box. It also has, like an iPhone has iBeacon technology, and it's a receiver, iBeacon receiver in every iPhone, and Android has different technology. But basically, it's like RFID, right? So that Bluetooth beacon has low-power Bluetooth transmitter in it that is transmitting a special ID. You can actually hook your, they have an app. If you look at the Estimote app, you can download it from the Apple Store. It's free, or the Android store. And you can actually reprogram the major and minor. There's a major and minor number. That 60717 number you saw scrolling by, that's called the major number. No, the minor number. What's one or the other? Anyway, but I hard-coded that in so I wouldn't get interference, right? But that battery, and I could also, the other thing you can tell from that beacon is the battery life, because the battery's gonna die. So I've got like a 1.5 years left on that battery. So I'm gonna have to throw it away or replace the battery. Probably throw it away. It's like $30, right? And they're getting cheaper and cheaper. Especially they have the small little stickers now that you can get 10 for, well, the RFID stuff is really cheap. You can get 10 for $100 now, or $75, those little Bluetooth stickers.
So in your example, all of that data that Salesforce was processing, was that coming from your phone or from the beacon?
That was going into, remember that Xcode app I showed you when I ran the simulator?
Yes.
So if I look at the Xcode app, there's a line of code in there that does an HTTP post it picks up the beacon data, and it just does a post into, where is it? Oh, take my word for it, it's in there somewhere. HTTP post with the JSON payload into the endpoint in IoT Cloud. So it's talking directly from my phone and sending that data right into IoT Cloud's endpoint. Does that make sense? Yeah,
I guess I'm just trying to think in the Home Depot example, I'm just the end user, I'm the customer. So
right.
Home Depot is using the information about my location, about how strong that beacon signal is, and then it's delivering something. So ultimately what I'm trying to get at is, as the various mobile companies move to limit the amount of data I can use,
Right.
this is not going to affect my data usage other than to receive the coupon or whatever.
Right. So I'm flooding my data plan by doing constant HTTP post. Yes, I agree. What's going to happen is, but those packets are only like 10 bytes a piece, right? Or 30 bytes compressed. So how much data are you actually sending? Not very much. So even though it's flooding my stream by sending the data from two different beacons, it's not really a lot of data. And you'd only be transmitting when you're near the beacon anyway, right? So, and there are other things you could do too. Like that automatic device that talks to the OBD dongle, it only transmits and receives the data at the beginning of the trip, right? Or the end of the trip. When the ignition switch goes off, then it uploads the data to the phone and sends it up to the cloud, posted to the Postgres database, right? So there are games you can play, because the smartphone is smart, right? That's what they call a smartphone. So you can write rules in the smartphone to intelligently process the data from, when the phone becomes a hub, you can do intelligent things.
Didn't Apple a couple of years ago introduce some sort of technology to obfuscate your phone talking to beacons? And does that?
I'm not sure. All I know is it works fine on my phone right now, and I can connect directly. That's why I just go up and download the standard Estimote example software, and I know that is vetted by them and it works. It's not secure because you can probably intercept my token over the airwaves,
Because I know
right?
some retailers were upset with, they had deployed beacon technology or iBeacon
Yeah.
technology, and Apple had gone in and basically kind of anonymized what communications were going between the device and the beacon.
Yeah.
But I don't know how that would affect.
Yeah, so Estimote's figured that out, and they've got different protocols now on their current beacons. I'm not sure what all the protocols are, but I know that if you go up to, well, we'll figure it out together. Let's go to the Estimote site, and it'll show you Estimote beacon protocols. And when you go to buy it, it'll say, okay, Eddystone, I think, is one of the protocols. So I was trying to remember. But when you buy a beacon, it'll say the latest beacon has accelerometers in it and also different protocols. So even if they do something to mess up the protocol, the iBeacon stuff, you can use, it's called Eddystone UID, and you can enable that on your Estimote beacons. So most of the beacon companies are standardizing on all the standard protocols, and you can go, you need a secure token to communicate with it. It's a smart device, but you need to handshake with it, a security token. Like I just gave 3 of my beacons over to I have an intern helping me build demos, and he had, when he tried to hack into them, it sent me an email notification that, hey, this guy's trying to hack into your beacon, do you give him permission? And I said yes. So you can tell when you're hacking into the beacon. So here are the is that the battery life? Oh, that's a broadcasting scheme. I think that's how long you get on the battery for each of the protocols. So your battery life's going to diminish based upon which protocol you select. Any other questions? Oh, we're not ready for beer yet, huh?
Do you have a developer edition for IoT Cloud?
Do I have what? A delivery date?
Developer edition.
Developer edition.
Oh, so not currently, no. We were doing these things called like boot camps for a while there, and we put those on hold, and we'll probably start those up again after Dreamforce. Safe harbor, okay? We're really looking for solid customers who have money and a great use case and want to stand up with us at Dreamforce and have a success with us. That's what we're looking for right now. We'd like to see like 10 of those by Dreamforce.
Is there any, I know you get a lot of customers using it first. Is there any roadmap for like ISV apps? Like if everybody can get this and it's low price. You mentioned you can do JavaScript programming. Is there any roadmap for maybe installing some of that as a managed package, building apps for this, or is it all going to be custom work you have to do?
Yeah, so we've thought about a lot of things, but we just haven't released any information on any of that yet. So you can use your imagination.
Yeah, okay. Ask back later.
Yeah, that's right. Ask me after Dreamforce. How's that?
Have you encountered any resistance from people sharing their behavior with the beacons and stuff like that? And do you have?
Oh yeah, all the time. Security and privacy are the two main concerns behind, from everybody. Every time I speak, they ask about that.
I was thinking like people wouldn't want to share like.
We had an oil change example, but maybe as a fundraiser, like people have an affinity for their sports teams or their kids' school or something like that. As a fundraiser, we could consent, pay schools to get people to share their information.
Would that be something that would overcome?
Yeah. So it's amazing what people will do in exchange for giving up their personal information, myself included. I opt in for everything. I don't care if everybody knows where I am and what I'm doing all the time, because it's easier for me, and I don't care. I don't have anything to hide. But other people are the opposite, right? But if you're willing to, if they're willing to take things in exchange for their giving up some of their privacy, then every person, this is going to sound really bad, but I think every person has their price. What are they willing to give up and for how much? It's either about convenience or about monetary value or business value or whatever, right? And I think, in my opinion, we're going to have to raise the bar on how we do privacy, period. And this is public information. I've personally filed patents on, I call it social trust profile, where you can opt in and opt out for specific, like my Fitbit. So it has my sleep data, my step data, and my heart rate. I don't want anybody to know about my heart rate or my sleep data, but everybody can have my step data, right? They can have how many steps I went yesterday. So I should be able to go to a do not call list like website where I say, sleep no, heart no, steps yes. And I should also be able to make that granular, and for every company that can leverage that, like US Geological Survey, I want them to have my sleep data because I think that's cool that they can have that, right? So I should be able to check that box for them. So I think you're going to see more and more of that. And I think it's going to be government mandated too, because governments are going to start to freak out about their citizens' data being compromised.
Waiting for them to do that for junk mail and email lists.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
Yeah. Well, the do not call list is not working very well anyway, so I hate to use that example, but how many people still get called from the do not call list? I do. Yeah. Okay, now I'm talking way too much. I'm rambling on, aren't I? Okay, one more question.
So are there plans to have an Apex interface to processing the device events and interacting with events?
So process builder events can do that. So the answer is yes, I guess. And again, I haven't experimented very much with process builder events, but that's something we should be able to feed in from devices, from device data. It's going to hit your governor level. If you're doing 1 billion events per hour, I think you're going to hit a limit of some sort, right? But if it's a few thousand events per day, why not? I think that was the last one, right? Can I go now? No? Thank you very much.